when a natural disaster occurs in a region or country, there are always those that offer a spiritual interpretation of why this has happened, and perhaps for, as they see it, some sin that that region has committed. And I find this to be an unhelpful approach to natural disasters, and even to diseases, in the form of, is God punishing me for some sin that I've committed? These things can generate a deep sense of loneliness that really adds to our suffering. And I don't see God responding to suffering in that way. It's helpful to say that in the Old Testament, when God's interaction with his people was very much tied to the geography and the physicality, some of the ways in which he interacted was to do with the physicality and the geography. But with the arrival of Jesus and the age of the Spirit, God's interaction with his people is different. The human heart is now the dwelling place of God. And as we look at the words of Jesus, I don't see him pronouncing judgment over people for their illnesses or even for natural disasters. There's only really one example where we come close to seeing Jesus' response to this, in Luke 13, where the Tower of Siloam collapses and a number of people die. And we don't know whether the building collapsed due to being poorly built, which would be due to human error, or whether it's due to an earthquake, which would be a natural factor. But either way, Jesus says, look, that the people in Shalom were no worse sinners than anyone else. But unless you repent, you too will perish. In other words, when we hear of a natural disaster, that shouldn't lead us to be giving or pronouncing a moral judgment on a nation or a group of people or a region. But it should force our gaze inwards to ask, where do I stand with God? What is my relationship with him like? If my life were to end in a moment, do I know where I'm going? And am I happy with that? And so actually we're to resist trying to pronounce judgment on others and to seek God. And it's a reminder that life is fragile, that people matter. And I see a real kindness and tenderness in the words of Jesus towards hurting people.